I like don't want to be standing in front of it. It could be an interesting view. Like, who is this lady? Get her out of here. I like don't want to be standing in front of it.
Yeah, so you definitely.
There it is. Interesting view. Like, okay, who is this lady? Get her out of here. There we go. I learned how to mute from you, Carol. Thank you. So we're streaming now live, so we're good.
Shabbat shalom.
I want to just like there, so you can see.
All right, Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
How's everyone this evening?
Great.
Good.
Happy to be here.
Are you okay? So you're in the shade enough over there? Okay.
We're happy.
Very, very happy campers. Good to see you all. Welcome to Temple Akiba. My name is Cantor Lonnie Freilich, and it is so wonderful to be here on this July 4th weekend with all of you. Rabbi sends his regards. He is at home with his children, and he says he misses all of you and wishes he could be here. But you will be seeing him hopefully next week, or maybe you think the week after. No, it's the week after. So here we are, the weekend of July 4th, the weekend that we celebrate our freedom. And we wanted to begin with the beauty of Shabbat, the beauty of the light that Shabbat brings, with one of my favorite songs, Bring in the Light. Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. We light the lights of Shabbat. Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. Lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat, shalom. May you have a peaceful day. Shabbat, shalom. May you have a restful day. Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. We light the lights of Shabbat. Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. Lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat shalom. As we watch the candle shine, Shabbat shalom. Cover the challah, pour the wine. Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. We light the lights of Shabbat. Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. Lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat shalom. Time to take a big deep breath. Shabbat shalom. A special day for us to rest. Bring in in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. We light the lights of Shabbat. Lechad lifnei shel Shabbat. And I'd like to invite a couple that brings so much light to this congregation and brightens all of our lives, Diana and David Hopman, to help us light our Shabbat candles. And we are on page 2. Thank you so much, Diana and David. And that was such a beautiful soprano rendition of our candle blessings. We often do that in more of an alto tone. It was such a pleasure to hear that higher tone. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And another incredible man who brings so much joy to our congregation, Ira Diamond, will be leading us in the Kiddush. We ask all who are able to please rise, and we're on page 5. Not a soprano.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hakratim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher tishar b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kadsho v'achava v'ratzon inhilanu Zikaron lemaseh bereishit ki hu yom tehillah lemitzvah kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim ki anu b'harta otzanu kidashta b'kol Shabbat kashecha v'Akaba u'ratzon imotanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashavat. Amen. L'chaim.
L'chaim. Thank you so much. Please have a seat. So how many of you actually read the footnotes within our books? Has anyone ever looked at some of the smaller writing underneath or on the sides? Sometimes. So there's some fascinating information if you have a second and you look. So I just wanted to point one little tidbit out. We're going to turn to page 20. Our next prayer is Lechad Dodi. And this is a mystical prayer. This is a prayer that was written by our Kabbalists who would go out into the fields and dance and welcome the Sabbath bride. And it was written by a man in particular who actually embedded his name within the prayer itself. So the prayer is an acrostic of the name of Shlomo Halevi Alkabetz. So if you look on the bottom of page 20, and I'll read it for anyone who is watching on YouTube. This poem was composed by Shlomo Halevi Alkabetz, a 16th century Safed Kabbalist. The first 8 verses are arranged acrostically according to the author's name. So the first verse starts with the letter Shin, and then Lamed, and then Mem, and then you have a Hey eventually, so Shlomo. So you have his name written right into the poem itself. So if you have a chance throughout the service, take a look at some of these footnotes on the bottom or the side. It will tell you some really fascinating information about our prayer service and about some of our prayers in the background. So we are on page 20 for the singing of L'Chadodi. On our last verse, we'll ask everyone to rise and face the entrance, which would be, your entrance is right over here, so you'll be facing towards the front and the side. Mikad Shabbat, lechu v'necha, kihi mekor, aberacha, merosh v'kedem, nesucha, sof ma'aseh, v'machtavat tfilah lecha dodi, mikad kala, enei Shabbat, verse 5. Hitoreri, kiva orech, uni ori, uri, shir taveri, kvod Adonai, alayich niglal lecha dodi, v'yikad kala, enei Shabbat, and we rise and face the entrance to greet the Sabbath bride. Mori v'shalom, ateret kala, ram v'simcha, u'v'tzohona, tochem unei, ansegula, ori chala, lecha dodi, mikad kala, enei Shabbat, lecha v'la. Please have a seat. And we continue on page 26 with our prayer, the Chatzi Kaddish. And this is a prayer that marks the passage from one section of our service to the next. So we have just completed the introductory section of our service, and we are moving into the section called the Shema Ubirchotecha, which is the section of all of the blessings surrounding the Shema, the Baruch Hu, the Shema, the Ve'ahavta, the Michamocha. So this is a prayer that helps mark that passage from the beginning of the service to the next section. Please join me. Yikata ve'yitkadash shemei rabba ve'amadi rachirute ve'amlich malchute ve'chayechon u'yomechon u'chayedechol beit Yisrael bagala bagala u'bizman karib ve'imeru amen. Yehi shnei rabba mevorach le'alam u'amei hamaya yitbarach yitbarach ve'yishtabach v'yitfa'ar v'yitroma v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei tekudesha rifu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata dam yihiram belma le'imeru amen. And we rise for our formal call to worship, the Baruch Hu, on page 28. And we're actually going to face east for this prayer, which is that way. We remain standing, but we turn back towards the bima. We continue with one of the central prayers, our Shema, found on page 34 and 35. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Le'olam Amen. Shem kevod malchuto le'olam va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Please be seated and join me in the chanting of our song, the Ve'ahavta, our prayer that tells us how we can show our love for God. We're on page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha ubechol nafshecha ubechol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'beitecha u'lechtecha v'derech u'shochbecha u'bekumecha u'keshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotavot bein einecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti echem me'eretz Mitzrayim Lihiot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. Oftentimes you'll hear the rabbi and I, if someone else is chanting the Ve'ahavta, right after they're done, sing Adonai Elohechem emet, or just say emet. So I wanted to read another one of those little interesting tidbits, those footnotes at the bottom, to explain why we do that. So at the bottom of 36, it says, for those who choose, at the end of the Shema, after the words Adonai Elohechem, the word emet, true, is added as an immediate affirmation of its truth. So it's a way, almost another way, instead of saying amen, of saying, we believe in this, we truly believe in this. Every word of this prayer is true, and we affirm its trueness. We're going to turn to page 41, and we're going to read together at the top of the page. Understanding and generations to come. The song of a land once ravaged by war, now quiet and content. For soldiers home to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed. The song of peace. Our Mi Chamocha is a daily reminder of our redemption. This is the moment in our service where we acknowledge with gratitude our freedom, and especially at this time on the weekend of July 4th, where we are celebrating America's freedom. And we recommit to the work of redeeming those in our world who are not yet free and who have not yet been redeemed. Mi Chamocha on page 40. Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Thank you so much to Mary Lou, who is with us as our choir director and our accompanist this evening. It's always such a pleasure to have you play for us. So thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me tonight.
Our next section of our service is called the Tefillah or the Amidah, and this begins on page 46. And our Amidah is really about relationships. We begin with our Avot, which is about God's relationship with our ancestors. And it's a prayer that reminds God, hey, God, remember your incredible relationship with our ancestors and all that you promised them. Look favorably upon us as well. And our next prayer, I believe, also talks about relationships. The giver wrote. In it, we have a passage that can be read a couple different ways. It either can talk about how God revives the dead, which is in conservative liturgy. Within Reform liturgy, it talks about how God brings life to all. And I see that as a metaphor for how we can take this concept, whether it's reviving the dead or bringing life, into our relationship with God and into our relationship with our friends, with our loved ones. That sometimes you get out of touch with God or you're out of touch with your friends. COVID put a damper on so many of our relationships. It was difficult to see each other in person. Zoom just doesn't have the same experience, the same feeling as having a relationship in person. And this prayer I really see as this concept of reminding us to revive those friendships, to revive our relationship with God, to revive our relationship with our loved ones, with our friends. So if there's someone that you haven't talked with in a long time, it's that reminder of, you know what, take that moment to reach out, call them, revive that relationship, bring new life into that relationship. Or even if it's someone, your spouse that you're with all the time, it's that call to go on a date night. Take that moment to refresh and renew the relationships that you have in your life. We are going to begin together on page 46. Adonai, Sephatai Tiftach. Please rise, everyone. Ufia ki tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, U'mevii geula libnei v'neihem, Leman shemo be'ahava, Elachozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham be'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah, Rav lehoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somer shoflim berofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Mishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umidol melach, Melech memit umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye kadosh v'shimcha kadosh. Ukadoshim b'chol yom yahalelu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. We take the next few minutes for silent reflection, perhaps thinking of those relationships in your life that could use a little refresher, a little revival. When you're finished with your silent prayers, please feel free to have a seat. We think now about those who are in need of healing, in need of an extra hug, some extra love in their life. We turn to page 253 for our Misha Berach, and we pray for those who are in need of healing, whether it's physical, spiritual, emotional. But this is our prayer to help those who are going through a difficult time, to help those who are taking care of those who are going through a difficult time, and to let those in need know that we are there to support them and to help them, and that they have a few extra prayers that are heading their way. So we're going to begin with our first verse in the middle of the page, and then as the interlude, as Mary Lou plays our interlude, and as my eyes meet yours, please feel free to say out loud the names of those people who are in need of healing that you are thinking of. And if you are watching on Zoom, please put those names in our chat box as well.
May the source of strength will bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Well, Shabbat Shalom again, everyone. It is always such a gift when I'm able to give a Devar Torah, give a sermon when Rabbi is not with us. So thank you all. I appreciate you being here and having the opportunity to pray with me and pray with all of us together. It's such a special evening. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. This revolutionary document not only formalized the American colonies' united front in the Revolutionary War, but articulated the ideals of human equality and self-determination that still serve as the guiding principles of American government. Unprecedented in history, the United States were founded on an idea, not on a tribe or a clan, but on a concept that people choose their government. They predicated that idea on the fundamental rights of the individual granted by the Creator, so that no earthly institution could deny those rights. So what strange and sad times we're living in today. Here we are 245 years later, and the reproductive rights of women are now in the process of being stripped away by our own government. I am so disheartened with the decision of the Supreme Court to reverse Roe versus Wade, declaring that the constitutional right to abortion, upheld for nearly a half a century, no longer exists. Young women today will come of age with fewer rights than their mothers and grandmothers. According to the majority vote in the court's opinion, from the very moment of fertilization, a woman has no rights to speak of. A state can force her to bring a pregnancy to term, even at the steepest personal and familial costs. The 3 judges appointed by Bill Clinton and Barack Obama wrote, "With sorrow for this court, but more for the many millions of American women who have today lost a fundamental constitutional protection, we dissent." I was proud to be counted as one of the members and supporters of the statement made by the American Conference of Cantors on the day of the ruling. The statement read, "We are deeply disturbed and condemn today's ruling by the Supreme Court of the United States in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, overturning 50 years of precedents established by Roe versus Wade in 1973. The reform movement has a long history of support for reproductive rights, dating back to a 1935 resolution by the Women for Reform Judaism, decades before the right to a safe abortion was codified by the court. Throughout the decades, the reform movement has steadfastly worked to ensure a person's right to choose. A defining pillar of Reform Judaism is the fundamental belief in the sanctity of life and the Jewish value of kavod habriot, respect for human dignity. There is no doubt in the teaching of our sages that the life and well-being of an existing life must be prioritized over the possibility of potential life. We will work with our partners and supporters to continue to advocate for safe access to the reproductive care to which each person is entitled. I wanted to share with you my own very personal story. I found out at my 11-week appointment in my first pregnancy that my baby's heart had stopped beating. I was given the choice to wait and see if I would miscarry naturally or have a procedure to remove the fetus. It was an agonizing decision that took a few days, but ultimately I decided to have the procedure. The doctors had explained that if I didn't miscarry naturally, that my body could experience sepsis and cause dangerous problems. And as difficult as it was, I was grateful to be able to have had that choice, to have had that option to preserve my safety. I grieve for the women who will no longer be given this choice, who have only prayers that they can turn to, hoping they will miscarry naturally and not put their bodies in potential danger. I grieve for the women who will be questioned when they do miscarry, by people asking if they purposely caused the miscarriage. I grieve for the countless scenarios in which women will be vilified, be placed in danger, forced to carry unwanted pregnancies, denied the choices they deserve, and for the women whose lives will be cut short. Protests immediately spread throughout the country, sending a clear message that this fight has just begun. In the Constitution, it says, whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. It is our constitutional right to fight an unjust and unfair ruling by our government. So how ironic is it that this Torah portion this week actually warns us about questioning authority? In this week's Parsha, Korach, the Levite Korach and his followers accuse Moses and Aaron of taking power and prestige for themselves at the expense of the community. Korach exclaims, "You have gone too far, for all the community are holy, all of them, and the Lord is in their midst. Why do you then raise yourself above the Lord's congregation?" Korach is protesting his governmental system, and yet Korach is considered a villain in this portion and in the Torah. So why does the Torah frown upon his protest? How could we not identify with Korach saying these words close to the 4th of July? Korach seems to be advocating for human rights 3,000 years early. Isn't what he's arguing for what we also believe? Don't we also believe that our entire community is holy? Don't we believe in making change when we feel something is wrong? Moses defends himself against the rebels by saying that the Lord will make God's presence known by how God kills these rebels. And then God opens the ground and swallows Korach and his followers. So the Torah shows us someone making an argument that maybe any one of us could have made, and then he gets swallowed by the earth. The fight that is happening now for women's reproductive rights is one that will benefit all women. It is one that is not based on selfish ideals, but on the notion that all women should be able to make their own decisions when it comes to their bodies. Commentators share that Korach ultimately had selfish motives when it came to challenging Moses' authority. His argument was not about bringing everyone in and seeing everyone as equal. It was about asking for his superiority side by side with Moses and Aaron on top of the rest of the people. Korach wanted to be elevated to a position of priesthood. So his argument was more about tearing down Moses to elevate himself than protesting for the good of the people. We live in difficult times, but our right to challenge authority has not been taken away. We as Jews will continue to fight for what is right and just in this world. We will continue to vote for officials that have the good of the country and not just a select few in their hearts. We will be there to help those who will be affected by these changes and advocate for the women who are now silenced. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may that be God's will. I'd like to invite Andrew Lackman up to the bima to give our official welcome from our Board of Trustees. Shabbat Shalom, Andrew.
Thank you, by the way, for those moving words. They're always appreciated and always great to hear diverse voices from up here, not in terms of viewpoints, but just in terms of faces. So thank you. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, and now that we've had our bylaws changed, I can say trustees and not directors. It is my pleasure to be here and welcome you all to this pre-Independence Day Shabbat. And first of all, I would like to thank Diana Hoffman for lighting the candles and Ira Diamond for the Kiddush. Remind everyone that the oneg will be inside or just after this. And to also remind you of some wonderful events. And I urge all of you, because this just went out, to be sure to check your Summer of Fun Akiba bulletin so that you can see many of these yourself. The first and the most important event to remind everyone is to renew your membership. We have, as I believe July 1st is sort of our it is when everything starts over. And so your commitment in this community makes all the difference, and it's what makes us a community. There is a couple of wonderful events coming up this summer. I'll just go through a couple of them in July, because hopefully we can see you all before August for the August ones. I will start just by noting that July 16th, there's a meditation in the sanctuary. And there is also a Shabbat at the shore. I want to say July 15th. At the end of the month, there's also paddleboarding with the rabbi, which is something, a whole new aspect of him I didn't know existed.
You didn't either.
Oh, okay. Next thing you know, Jews surfing, which is the next. And on July 24th will be Pub Akiba, where we are going to put the pub in public worship. And we look, thank you. And we look, I'm live all this week, by the way, which people will get together here in the Annex Courtyard. And July 28th is Rosh Chodesh, Spirituality for Women. I'm going to mention one other last event in July that is important, and that is July 29th is our first open house. And on a personal appeal, we are always still looking for folks who want to take part in our leadership development committee, which is helping put together sort of a curriculum in the background of where we're coming from so we can help provide direction to our future leaders to where we want to go. And that can't happen without each and every one of you. So thank you very much for coming here. And we are looking forward to seeing you over at the ONH. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. And we rise for the beginning of our concluding prayers, the Aleinu, on page 282. And we're once again going to face east, which is that way. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon rakon, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כוגי הארצות, ולא שמנו למשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם לגורלנו ככל המדם, ואנחנו קוראים למשתחווים אלוהים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Please be seated. At the bottom of page 293, the reading before our Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. And we remember those who are in Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning. This includes Sherry Berlin, friend of Sue Pollock. Is there anyone else that is in the first 30 days of mourning that would like to share a name? We continue with those who have yahrzeits during this time of year, the anniversary of those who've departed during this time of year in years past. We begin with the names that are located in our Sue and Jerry Erfrig Memorial Room, including Augusta Bimstein, Rose Buzzy Cholden, Nathan Diamond, David Hillman, Philip Hyatt, Abraham Kaplan, Helen Levine, Francis Leviton, Genevieve Picherio, Ben Rappaport, Miriam Rue, and we include Philip Altfest, Marilyn Dershowitz, Elizabeth Echer, Jonathan Viander, Blanche Fink, Bernice Friedland, Kenneth Hopfeld, Helga Horn, Edna Josephson, Ida Koppel, Molly Levine, Francis Lipman, Marilyn Mann, Kate Metz, Julius Moster, Gloria Pace, Louis Pollock, Max Reinhardt, Dolpho Rosenberg, Lissa Root, Samuel Savatsky, Esther Tabak, Ruth Turl, Harrison Weitz, and Martin Young. Is there anyone else who is remembering a loved one during this time of year? We ask for all who are able to please rise for our mourner's cottage, which can be found on page 294. Yitgadal B'Kadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma Divrach Hirute Be'amlich Malchute B'chayechon U'B'yomechon U'B'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala U'Bizman Kariv V'imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Olmei Almaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitroman, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitalev, v'yitalal, shemei dekudashah, b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma, v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, Ve'imru Amen. Moshe Shalom B'Mrumav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and together we say, Amen. We are going to be closing our service with the singing of Oseh Shalom. Feel free to put your books down. You can have a seat and join with me. We have one last blessing, our blessing over the challah. And please join with me. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices join in happy chorus as our prayer is humbly said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'tei avon. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Please join us for our oneg. I believe it's on the landing or on the landing? On the landing.